A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina wa azimina wa habibi qulubina Abil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad wa ala ahli bayti at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Salamun alaykum. First of all, to the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, and to you, my brothers and sisters, as you join me in another program of Muharrum Reflections with me, Fiza Tajwar. As we remember, in the last lecture, we were discussing the attack of our open enemy, the shaitan, and how he attacks us. And we distinguished that the knowledge of our enemy is just as important as the knowledge of those who guide us, because we need to understand how we are being attacked on our way on our road of Sirat al-Mustaqim, as we try and attain proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What are the deterrents and what are the things that are going to attack us? And this is very important to have knowledge of this, because we need to know how we can protect ourselves from the attacks of the shaitan and other people who shaitan might incite against us. So the first point that I want to start off is, it is not only the shaitan that might cause us to deviate from Sirat al-Mustaqim. Now I will be talking about the actual insan, the makeup of the insan, how the insan is able to influence us and how we are able to counter that, and what parts of our being can the shaitan actually influence. So sometimes we might actually be really good people. We see really good people out there. But what happens is, after a short while, we see they have completely deviated off the path and completely lost their minds. How does this happen? Sometimes what the shaitan does is influence others to influence you. When he can't get to you, when you have built up this barrier against the shaitan, sometimes he will go through the people that you love or that you have a certain affinity towards, to affect you by influencing them. If they have no barrier against the shaitan, they will be easily influenced by the shaitan. And because of your love and your appreciation or your affinity towards someone, he knows that when this person, and because we can see them, when this person goes to them and asks them or tries to inspire them to do the same, it is going to work. So we not only must be careful about the shaitan, but also of the whispers of people, of the influences of people. So we need to know that and remember that if somebody is coming to us and telling us to do something that is against the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, let's forget the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If they are against morality, if they are against humanity, we must not adhere to them. The reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared something haram is because of two reasons. And those two reasons are for us, not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not for the Quran, not for the Ahlul Bayt. The reason why something is declared haram, prohibited, not allowed, first reason is because it will make the shaitan happy. But why? Why? We already determined shaitan is our open enemy. But when we do something haram, I want you to remember two H's. Something that is harmful for yourself or for somebody else is haram. Something that is causing you humiliation or causing somebody else humiliation is haram. Subhanallah, look at the reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made something haram. When you are drinking, you lose your state of mind. You might do things that will bring humiliation to you, your family, your friends, because you are not in control of yourself. You do not know what you are doing. Therefore, it has been declared haram. The wine in itself, how can it be haram? It is haram because of its effects. Something is haram because of its effects. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was looking at the BBC News, and on the news it stated that pork is one of the biggest causes of cancer. And subhanallah, we are constantly asked, why are Muslims not allowed to eat pork? When on your own news channels, on the news channels of the people who are non-Muslims, in big writing it says pork is harmful to your health, one of the biggest causes of cancer. They have found that out now when we have been given the guidance 1400 years ago. Because why? Not because the pork in itself has any harm to it, but its effects are haram. Its effects are negative. Its effects are harmful. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited, put a stop to us using anything that will cause us or anybody else harm, us or anybody else humiliation. He does not want us to be humiliation. Our Lord is so glorious, so merciful, so great that He says to us, if you commit a sin, do not go and tell somebody else. Who else is so merciful? Your sin is between me and you, but yet if you tell somebody else about it, you have made that person a witness over your sin. Therefore, when we sin, do not go out and tell anybody else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, leave it between you and me. Maybe you will do a good deed. Maybe you will repent and I will take away that bad deed, or change that bad deed into a good deed. But leave it between you and me. I do not want you to be humiliated by other people knowing. Subhanallah. This is Ghafurur Rahim. Our amazing, amazing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has created us. So we must remember two words. Something that is haram will cause harm and will cause humiliation. And anything in your view, if it causes you harm or humiliation, know that it is being incited by the shaitan, because that is what he wants to do to you. He wants to either harm you or humiliate you. Now, how I want you to think of yourself when we talk about the shaitan. I want you to think of yourselves, and I want to think of myself as 4 parts. Every human psyche, every human being is made up of 4 parts. And those 4 parts internally are anger, intellect, desire and imagination. And sometimes we ask, is it the shaitan who is always causing us to do evil, or do we have an evil inside us? And when we look at this description of the human psyche, of how a human being actually works and how it uses its faculties in order to live a daily life and conduct their affairs, we need to understand the shaitan in terms of how we are made up. We are made up of these 4 faculties, the faculties of the human being: anger, intellect, desire and imagination. But we need these 4 faculties. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put these in place within every human being in order for them to use these faculties in the times of need. So there are times where we need to use our anger, in terms of when we are fighting against oppression, or we are fighting against a bully, or we are fighting against some kind of injustice to others and ourselves. We need intellect in order to learn about the creation around us, to learn how to develop our skills to help us, to help the community, to help the people around us, to help Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need a desire in order to keep our bodies alive, the desire to eat, the desire to keep ourselves clean. We need all these desires in order to function within society and community. And we need the faculty of imagination to imagine how we can better ourselves even more, be creative in the way that we do it. Think about in the future, imagine as much as you want. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when you make the niyyah to do something good, I will give you the sawab of 1 reward. So use your imagination to think as much good as you can. But these 4 faculties, brothers and sisters, can be used in a negative way. Each of these faculties has a door. We must know when to open this door and when to keep it shut, because the shaitan is always knocking. And this is how I explain this to my children, to the youth that I speak to. This is how the shaitan will enter you internally. He will be knocking at the 4 faculties all the time: anger, intellect, desire, imagination. Let me in. And what he will do, if you open that door to the shaitan, he will come in and make you use your faculty in a negative, sinful way. So if you open the door of the faculty of anger to the shaitan, which he is able to enter and use, you will use your anger in a negative, haram way. You will be horrible to your family members. You will be horrible to people at your workplace. You will use your anger to hurt people even more. And this is why? Because you open the door of that faculty to the shaitan. Your intellect. The shaitan will be knocking at the door of your intellect. Let me in. Let me in. But if you open that door and let him into the faculty of intellect, he will make you know things, get knowledgeable about things which can be harmful for themselves or other people. The people who create weapons, brothers and sisters, are very intelligent, but they opened the door to the shaitan who made them use their intelligence in a negative way. Desire, which is self-explanatory. If you open the door to your desire and you let the shaitan in, he will use your desire against you. The desire for money may cause you to gamble. The desire for intimacy may want you to go to places of haram. The desire for intoxication and liberation of the mind may force you towards going towards alcohol and drugs. And the faculty of imagination. When we use imagination, we begin to think things, and if we open the door of the faculty of the imagination to the shaitan, he will make our mind think things, and then when we are not able to possess what we are imagining, we become angry and we become despondent and we despair and we become depressed and we become stressed, because we have opened that door to the shaitan. So for these 4 faculties, we need to know that we need to keep this door closed, and when he comes knocking, we keep that door shut. We need to be in control of these 4 faculties, and this is what we call tazkiyah nafs, control of the nafs, knowing when to open the door and close the door. And this is how I explain the nafs to my children, to the younger generation who try to understand the concept of the enemy and the shaitan and how he tries to deviate us from the right path. But how can we first of all, I want to go to what the shaitan will say at the day of judgment, the ones we are following. We may take him as a friend in this world, but it's beautiful, this verse is beautiful in what he says. The shaitan will say when the matter has been concluded, when the day of judgment comes, indeed, Allah had promised you the promise you of truth. He had promised you the truth, and I promised you, but I betrayed you. But I had no authority over you except that I invited you, and you responded to my invitation. So do not blame me, but blame yourselves, and I cannot be called to your aid, nor can I be of any help. Indeed, I deny your association of me with Allah before. Indeed, for the wrongdoers is a painful punishment. The shaitan will reject any kind of relationship with you on the day of judgment, because there will be people who said, I didn't do it, the shaitan made me do it. But it was our choice whether to follow him or not. And that, our choice, is what we are judged on. Did we take that step? Did we open the door? Did we take that first step in the footsteps of the shaitan? We must be very aware of this enemy. He is our biggest open enemy. So how do I combat this enemy? What are the first steps that we need to do in order to protect ourselves from this enemy? Gain knowledge about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the prophets and the imams. Remember, the petrol for this vehicle that we will use to go towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gaining knowledge. Be aware of your company. We may be incited by the shaitan to deviate you. Stay away from places where haram might be happening. Many times as Muslims, when we gather together as Muslims, we think we are doing halal, but in fact, we are inviting ourselves and others to haram. And I want to touch upon some gatherings that we are attending now where haram is being done openly, such as our weddings. You enter, you see people at majalis, at gatherings with complete hijab, very Islamic, alhamdulillah, good akhlaq. But as soon as we are gathered outside of the centers and institutes, we begin to see a whole different view of the people who are claiming they are Shia, me included. I am not one to say that I have never been through this or done this, but why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this knowledge, when you start gaining knowledge, you start becoming aware of what Allah is liked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is disliked, and what is shaitan is making you do. When we have our weddings, subhanallah, there's a DJ in the corner, there's music playing, there's sisters without hijab, there's intermingling between na-mahram men and women, people dancing with other people enjoying themselves without any shame, without any with complete humiliation. And you can see, once you learn about the shaitan, you will be able to see where he is affecting people, where he is affecting you. But at the end of the nikah, what do? Hadith Kisa and the Quran over the head of the bride and groom. Is this not hypocrisy? Has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not sent us the guidance? Yet we prefer our gatherings to be visited by the shaitan rather than the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hypocrisy. Shaitan makes us hypocrites. In that we can accept some things of Islam and leave some things, and accept some things of the mushrikeen and leave some things. Understand this to keep ourselves protected. Reflect at the end of every day. This is the biggest action plan. Good book, good deeds, bad deeds. Write them both down. Reflect on your whole day. How can I change this? Reflect on how the shaitan was attacking you. Recite A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim before anything that you do, coupled with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Recite the Muwaddadain every day and every night. Surah An-Nas and Surah Al-Falaq, which Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam said is the protection against the shaitan. Remember, he is your enemy and never take him as anything else. He is always on the lookout to attack you. Always on the lookout to attack you. And look how the shaitan influenced the army of Yazid ibn Muawiyah. The influence of the shaitan took them so far. They let the doors of their faculties open for shaitan to come in and fester and eat up inside every little ounce of humanity and humility they had inside of them, for them to be able to go and kill Hazrat Ali Asghar alayhi salam. Three-pronged arrow. Which person with a little bit of morality, with a little bit of humanity, would think that it was okay to shoot a 6-month-old baby in the arms of his father with a three-pronged arrow made to kill horses? And this is the first steps when we start following the shaitan. This is what happens. The shaitan is the one who he was let in, and they were able to kill the two beautiful moons of Sayyidah Zainab Salamullah alayha own and Muhammad. They were able to put a spear through the chest of Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam, who looked like the very prophet they prayed for in their salah. The very prophet whose name they heard in the azan every single day. They were able to trample upon the body of Qasim and reduce it to mere pieces. This is the effect of when you let the shaitan into your art, into your life, into your faculties of your being. We must think, are we followers of the shaitan or are we followers of Hussein alayhi salam, who rejected any kind? He said to Yazid was the follower, the adherent to shaitan. He said, someone like me will never give bay'ah to someone like you. Death with dignity is better than death with humiliation. What did we say before? Who causes humiliation? The shaitan. Anything haram will cause humiliation. Yazid was inviting people towards haram, to the way of the shaitan. But Imam Hussein alayhi salam was Sirat al-Mustaqim. He said, someone like me will never give bay'ah to someone like you. Until the next lecture, inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us and protect us from the shar of the shaitan, keep our children protected. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasten the reappearance of Imam al-Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala faraj sharif, the avenger of the blood of martyrs of Karbala. Until next time, Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.